So back in the 2015 draft, it was an amazing one for the NHL. Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Dylan Strome, Mitch Martin, Noah Hanifin, that's going to be your top 5. Then you have Timo Meier later in the draft, Mikko Rantanen, but then you get to Boston selections. And out of these 3 selections, Jake DeBrusk became the best player here. 385 games played, 226 points. That's not bad by any means. But then there was the next 3 picks. Matt Barzal, Kyle Connor, Thomas Chabot. All 3 of these guys could have been Boston Bruins. And what would have happened if these guys were Boston Bruins? They probably wouldn't be able to win a few Stanley Cups, barring keeping the team together, because all these guys would have won in money, and it wouldn't have been that simple. But what if they were Boston Bruins? That's the real question. So here we are in NHL 18, and the reason we're starting in NHL 18 is so these guys develop a little bit. Matthew Barzal, he's up to an 83 overall. Kyle Connor, he's up to an 80. Thomas Chabot won't be playing this season. He's only a 76 overall. But once all 3 of these guys get into their prime, Boston better be winning some Stanley Cups. So enough messing around here. Let's get into season number 1. Also, NHL 24 is around the corner, and if you're looking forward to that, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, just for reference, when looking at the stats here, in the 2017-2018 season, the Boston Bruins went 50, 20, and 12. How did they do this season though? Yeah, 31st in the entire league, dead last, 30, 44, and 8. I added Kyle Connor and Matt Barzal, and this is what they did. Ain't no way. So basically, these were the numbers on the team. Absolutely disappointing. Matt Barzal, 34 points. Kyle Connor, he's picking up 18. No, this entire team was a disappointment. Not a single player here played up to expectations. No, but things are just going to keep on getting stranger, because in the postseason, the Winnipeg Jets are going to win the Stanley Cup, and in the conference finals, we had an all-Canadian matchup, the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Everything about this simulation was weird, so let's not spend any more time here. Let's head over to NHL 19. Alright, so we're not going to discuss what happened last season. All I know is this season, it was some tough times for you, because you guys lost to the greatest franchise of all time, the St. Louis Blues. And honestly, even with Kyle Connor here, even with Matt Barzal, and even with Thomas Chabot, who's an 86 overall, I still don't think you'd be able to beat that St. Louis Blues team. We were just built different. So things are looking absolutely fantastic for the Boston Bruins, first in the entire league after finishing 31st the year before, 59, 19, and 4. No, this team was built different. Also, where are my St. Louis Blues? That's what I'm more concerned about. 13th in the entire league. The year we won the Stanley Cup, I think that's actually pretty accurate. We were probably around the 12-13 mark, so you know what? St. Louis might be ready to go on another run. Looking at the team, we're going to see Brad Marchand leading the way. I don't think that's surprising anyone here. Kyle Connor, 56 points. Matt Barzal, 53. And Thomas Chabot, he's picking up 33. The 3 new additions to the team are looking absolutely fantastic, and Boston's definitely ready to go on a run. Also, what was Tuukka Rask up to? 46 wins, a 936, and a 184? Nah, this team better not fold. But just because we're first in the entire league doesn't mean it's going to be smooth sailing for us, because we have the Pittsburgh Penguins, and you can never count out Sidney Crosby. In the first round, the Bruins are going to be playing up to expectations, making quick work of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they're taking them down in 5 games. So the second round, honestly, should be the easiest matchup in the world for the Boston Bruins. They're taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is 2019, by the way. Ain't no way the Toronto Maple Leafs are beating the Boston Bruins. Also, St. Louis lost in the first round. You hate to see it, you really do. They're really down 3-1 in the series right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs currently have a 3-1 lead. We're winning Game 5. Game 6, it's a must-win for us. We're off to Game 7. The Toronto Maple Leafs are really about to blow a 3-1 series lead. I should have never doubted the Boston Bruins. So not only did the Boston Bruins blow a 3-1 lead entering the third period, but in overtime, it took this team 27 seconds to score a goal. Toronto's getting eliminated, Boston's completing the 3-1 comeback, and we're off to the conference finals. So Boston's reached the conference finals, and normally I wouldn't be afraid of this team in the Columbus Blue Jackets, but we have to remember this is also the same team that beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in 4 games, so they're not messing around out here. So Columbus might have taken game 1, but Boston's going to win 3 straight. Columbus is taking game 5, so here we are in game 6. Boston does have a chance to close out here, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're off to the Stanley Cup final. So here we are in our Stanley Cup final. We have a fantastic matchup. The Boston Bruins taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl taking on the Boston Bruins. Really, all I'm worried about is those 2 guys. Outside of them, Boston's got it handled. This isn't happening. We're down 3-0 in the series, and we lost game 3 7-1. Luckily, game 4 we won that one in overtime. We're really going to lose here. Okay, we're winning game 5, game 6. If we win this and somehow go to game 7, of course we're not. We're getting shut out. We lost to the Edmonton Oilers. We got shut out 3 times. Game 1, game 2, and then game 6. And we also lost 7-1 in a game. In the 4 games we lost, we only scored 1 goal. In the games we won, we did fine. But when it came to the games we lose, Nah, 1 goal. So David Pastrnak, you're leading the team, but we lost in the Stanley Cup final. It doesn't really matter too much. 21 points. Chabot, he picked up 14. Barzal, 13. Kyle Connor, 12. I'm so disappointed in this team. What did the Edmonton Oilers do? I need to know what they did. McDavid, 31 points. Nuge, 30. Draisaitl, 25. Okay, that's fair. Basically, we lost to these 3 guys. This was easily one of our best chances to win, but Boston decided, no, we're not going to show up in the Stanley Cup final. Why would we ever do that? So Boston, you absolutely fell apart in the Stanley Cup final in the last game. You really should have won that one, but I still haven't figured out in the 4 games that you lost how you only scored 1 goal. Like, that part doesn't make sense to me. Barzal, you're up to an 86 overall. Kyle Connor, you're an 86 as well. And what's Thomas Chabot looking like? He's an 86 as well. Basically, we just added 3 86 overalls to this team. They should be going on another Stanley Cup run. Hopefully they win this time around. So Boston would be taking the smallest step back this season, 6th in the entire league, 46, 26, and 10. It's still a fantastic season from them, but you might have noticed that Tampa finished 1st in the entire league. So that means we finished 2nd in their division. And who finished 3rd in our division? The Toronto Maple Leafs. So basically, we're guaranteed the 2nd round. No major surprises with the stats from our team. Kyle Connor, he's picking up 52 points. Matt Barzal, he's picking up 52. But Thomas Chabot, a slower season from him. A very slow season. Thomas Chabot, 21 points. My guy, what were you doing? 8 goals, 13 assists. I know you were on the second pairing and you weren't getting as many minutes, but even still. But as we know, who cares about the regular season? The playoffs is when it truly matters. And we got the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 1st round. So more than likely, I'm guessing we're playing Tampa in the 2nd round. I don't think the Penguins are going to be able to upset the Lightning. So as I said earlier, we don't need to worry about the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're taking them down in 5 games. A quick series to warm up for the 2nd round. But I think the most surprising thing about the 1st round matchups is the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be completing a massive upset over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that's who we have to take on. And if Sid the Kid's team's on a roll, you better watch out. That didn't happen. I can't comprehend this actually happening. We got swept to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Where did this team finish in the standings? I mean, it's not like the Pittsburgh Penguins were a bad team this season, but if Tampa finished 1st, then that means Pittsburgh was a wildcard team, and they were the 2nd wildcard team. Where were they? Ain't no way. 19th in the entire league. We got swept to a team that finished 19th in the entire league. Boston, you're never going to see a Stanley Cup ever again. So Pittsburgh's going to work their way all the way to the Stanley Cup final, and then they're going to beat the St. Louis Blues in 6 games. But the most impressive thing about this Pittsburgh Penguins run, they went 16-3. They lost 3 games during the entire postseason. And why was that? Because this man right here, Matt Murray, played absolutely out of his mind. 16 wins, 2 shouts, a 933 and a 204. Comparing his numbers to the rest of these in the entire league, no, this man was on a different tier. Except if you compare him to Devin Dubnyk. He was also elite. Shout out to Devin Dubnyk then. So it looks like we're switching things up for this game. Matt Barzal is going to be playing on the 1st line. Kyle Connor, of course, he's going to be on the 2nd behind Marchand. Thomas Chabot, what are we looking like here? You're going to be playing 1st line left defenseman. Okay, no more folding. It's been back-to-back years now where you guys have completely fallen apart in the playoffs. This team right here should be number 1 in the entire league and should win a Stanley Cup. We know this. This is a fact. Now I'm going to be completely honest here. How did Dallas finish with a better record than us? 55-21-6. Like, they were locked in this season. We finished 2nd, so it's a better year for us. 51-24-7. But even still, got to give our props to Dallas. They were locked in. So like usual, we're going to see Brad Marchand leading the way. But Kyle Connor, a massive season from him. 71 points. And same with Barzal. He's picking up 71 as well. But Thomas Chabot, did you bounce back this season? Doesn't really look like it. 4 goals, 26 assists, 30 points. 30 points is alright, but not for our number 1 defenseman. So in the 1st round of the postseason, we're going to have an old-fashioned rivalry matchup. The Boston Bruins are taking on the Montreal Canadiens. If you're going to lose a series here, do not lose in the 1st round. If we lose in the 2nd, that's fine, but not in the 1st round. I refuse to let that happen. This can't happen. We lost the first 2 games of the series, responded with 2 wins, lost game 5. We're facing elimination in game 6. We lost. We actually lost. You know what? We're not even looking at stats. We're not going to see who won the Stanley Cup. We're immediately moving on to our next game. It actually might be impossible for this Boston Bruins team to win a Stanley Cup. So I feel like not much really needs to be said here anymore. Barzal, 87 overall. Kyle Connor, he's up to a 90, and he's the highest overall of these 3 players now. Thomas Chabot, he's an 87 as well. The defense looks fantastic here. We already know what the offense looks like. Goaltending, it's looking great. Allmark's taking the reins here. 85 overall. Do not lose in the 1st round. You guys should win Stanley Cups. I've mentioned this multiple times already in this video. I don't know why you keep folding, but you do. Try not to do it this time around. And if you can't win in this game, NHL 23 is going to be your final shot. And if you can't win with what that team's going to look like, then Boston's just screwed for the future. You'll never win a Stanley Cup. Not really anything needs to be said here. We're just going to look at the standings. Don't worry, the team definitely made the playoffs. 11th in the entire league, 45, 33, and 4. But really, 11th in the entire league. Very interesting. So Kyle Connor, a season I can definitely live with, 75 points. Matt Barzal 61. And with Thomas Chabot, I'm assuming that 31 points is basically your max. I don't think you're going to be cracking 40 points again in this video, so I guess we're going to have to live with 31. And as a team that finished 11th in the entire league, you already know we're going to be a wild card team, and we got to take on the Washington Capitals in the first round. Washington might have been better than us in the regular season, but as we know, the regular season means nothing, especially for the Boston Bruins. I'm sorry, but we're not heading into Game 7 here. After having a 3-1 series lead, we're not heading into Game 7. This can't be happening again, so I'm not going to say anything. Actually, I'm going to talk throughout this entire simulation. It's a good thing I did. We're coming out on top 4-1. I don't know why I said I wasn't going to talk when I literally was talking as I was saying I'm not going to talk. It's not making much sense, but that's all right. Boston's going to avoid blowing a 3-1 series lead, and we're off to the second round. So by some miracle, we were able to get past the Boston Bruins, but now we got to take on the New York Rangers. New York, they got Shesterkin in between the pipes, and based on how this Boston team performs in the postseason, I have a hard time we're going to be able to score on this man. For some reason, I had a feeling this was going to happen right after I made that statement. 6 goals in Game 1, 4 in Game 2, 3 in Game 3, and then 5 in Game 4. We complete the sweep and we're off to the conference finals. But now we have our toughest task by far, the President's Trophy winner in the Florida Panthers, and if we're able to get past them, then more than likely we're taking on Vegas in the Stanley Cup final. I don't see Nashville beating them. So we had a 3-1 series lead, and then we lost 9-3 in Game 5. So I think we already know where this is headed. This is definitely not where I thought it was heading, but we're going to win Game 6, and here we are, the Stanley Cup final. I'm just simulating it. We're not messing around here. All we have to do is beat Vegas, and that's exactly what we're doing. The Boston Bruins have finally won. This team should probably have about 3 Stanley Cups right now, but we're going to take one. And also shout out to Patrice Bergeron, 29 points in 22 games. He was holding it down for the team. So here we go with NHL 23. Matt Barzal, 88 overall on the first line. Kyle Connor, 89 overall on the second. And we already know what Thomas Chabot's up to, and 87 overall on the second pairing. This Boston team just broke the win record, and now they have Matt Barzal, Kyle Connor, and Thomas Chabot. If they're not winning 67 games this season, then the simulations obviously is not realistic. So obviously we're not going to be winning 67 games or 65 games, whatever I said, but we're finishing first in the entire league, 56, 19, and 6. A Stanley Cup's in our future, I can tell you that for a fact. But even with all that being said, the fact that we didn't have a single player on this team averaging a point a game makes zero sense to me. Marchand's 79, Barzal's picking up 77, Pasta picked up 34 goals this season, Kyle Connor had 67 points. I mean, we had some crazy depth on this team, there's no question about that. Thomas Chabot, 31 points again. It doesn't matter, we're ready for a Stanley Cup. Also, Charlie McAvoy was plus 58. There is no reason that we should not be winning a Stanley Cup this season, especially with Linus Allmark putting up numbers like this. It's a wrap for the league. And with all that being said, you already know what's going to be happening in the first round. We're going to fall in 5 games somehow. Well, we might have not lost in 5 games, but we are headed to Game 7 elimination. Who would have saw that one coming? You can't tell me that this Boston Bruins team... Wow, we allowed 4 goals in the first period. It's over. We lost. You're telling me this Boston Bruins team is going to perform the exact same way as they did in real life after I gave you Kyle Connor, Matt Barzal, and Thomas Chabot? I legitimately have absolutely nothing to say. I'm more than speechless.